In recent months, quiet murmurs have begun to ripple through the heart of the Vatican. From behind polished oak doors to the whispered conversations between clergy during evening walks through the Vatican gardens, one name continues to surface with increasing regularity. Though nothing has been officially announced, and no confirmation has been given from the Holy See, something is stirring. A shift is underway. The Church is watching. In this video, we'll explore why one cardinal in particular is drawing the world's gaze and why many believe he could become the next to wear the white cassock. But be sure to stay until the end, because the path to the papacy is never without its twists. The most unexpected moment may still be ahead. The time of transition has arrived. The seat of Peter now sits vacant, and as with every moment following the death of a pope, the Catholic Church enters a period of solemn, waiting a pause that is both deeply spiritual and profoundly human. But this time, something feels different. The atmosphere is heavier, as if history itself is holding its breath. The faithful feel the weight of uncertainty. The world is watching, and the direction of the Church seems more crucial than ever. Within this vacuum of leadership, anticipation builds, and so do expectations. Among the many names whispered, one rises above the rest with remarkable consistency. That name is Cardinal Matteo Zupi, an Italian cleric known for his warm demeanor, thoughtful approach to ministry, and commitment to dialogue across every boundary. He currently serves as the president of the Italian Episcopal Conference, and is often described as a figure of balance, humility, and quiet charisma. Those who admire him already refer to him by a title that hints at continuity. Francis Roman II. To some, it's a prediction. To others, it's a warning. Regardless of perspective, it reveals a belief held by many that Zupi represents not just a man, but a movement, a continuation. Cardinal Zupi's rise to prominence has not come by accident. He is widely seen as a thoughtful successor to the spirit of pastoral leadership that defined the papacy of Pope Francis. His words often echo themes of unity, hope, and inclusion, phrases that find their way easily into news articles, social media posts, and conversations far beyond the Church. He speaks of joy, of fraternity, of welcome all beautiful ideals. But among the more reflective voices within the Church, a deeper question begins to emerge. What about the core? What about the gospel itself? Over the last decade, there has been a subtle but growing concern among some of the faithful. Those who once spoke freely about tradition, reverence, and the deeper truths of Catholic teaching now find themselves hesitant, unsure of how their words will be received. Labels have become common: rigid, old-fashioned, out of touch. But those asking difficult questions are not resisting change for nostalgia's sake. They are seeking clarity, not because they oppose joy, but because they know joy cannot exist without truth. The heart of the Church has always taught that joy flows not from comfort, but from sacrifice. That peace is born not from slogans, but from surrender. The cross, central to Christian life, is not a metaphor for success. It is the path of self-giving love, through which redemption is made possible. Yet in today's climate, some fear that joy has become a surface-level brand, a word that glosses over the deeper challenges of faith, sin, repentance, spiritual responsibility. Has joy become a substitute for transformation? And if so, what does that mean for the Church of tomorrow? If Cardinal Zupi becomes Pope, he will enter the spotlight as a man beloved by many, especially in media and political circles. His message resonates with a world in search of peace, in search of kindness. He is often praised for his ability to unify, to speak to multiple audiences with grace. But there is another side to this story. Among clergy who hold tightly to sacred tradition, questions remain. Does his message center on faith, or does it lean too heavily on human ideals? Is the focus on spiritual salvation or on social harmony alone? In many ways, the vision that Zupi represents is not new. It is a refined continuation of the previous pontificator project that seeks to bring the Church closer to the world through gentle engagement, broad welcome, and a renewed emphasis on presence. But as this vision expands, a dilemma takes shape. Can the Church serve the world without losing her soul? Can she speak gently without becoming silent on truth? There are those who believe Zupi's leadership would signal stability, familiarity, and a kind of graceful diplomacy. Others worry that the deeper pillars of faith doctrine, moral clarity, and spiritual depth could become obscured in favor of soft language and universal appeal. These concerns are not attacks. They are questions born of love for the Church. For what good is popularity if it comes at the cost of identity? As the conclave draws near, this is the tension that weighs most heavily. The cardinals will soon gather in quiet prayer and solemn discernment. The world may focus on names and faces, but those inside the Sistine Chapel will consider something more profound: the soul of the Church. What direction will it take? Will it deepen its roots or broaden its reach? Will the new pontiff call the world to transformation or simply walk alongside it? This is not about personalities. It's about vision, and whoever is chosen will shape the faith of generations to come. That's why the question is not simply, who will be pope? The question is, what will the Church become? So prepare yourselves, because if Cardinal Zupi is chosen, we may see a continuation, not a departure. The face will change, but the tone may remain the same. A gentler voice perhaps, a more polished presentation, but the mission, some believe, will continue in the same direction, reaching the world without disturbing it, speaking peace without always speaking truth. And that is where this moment becomes pivotal, because in this time of quiet anticipation, as the cardinals prepare to vote and the world watches with interest and perhaps indifference, what matters most is not the name announced from the balcony, but the legacy that name will carry. Will the Church rise with fresh fire, or settle into comfort? The world waits, and with it, the future of the Church unfolds step by step, prayer by prayer, heart by heart. During the pontificate of Pope Francis, a notable shift began to unfold, not only in tone but in direction. For centuries, the Church spoke with urgency about the transformation of the world through faith, calling every soul to a profound interior change, a conversion of heart. But under Francis, the approach evolved. No longer did the focus center on converting the world to the gospel's message. Instead, it began to revolve around embracing the world, extending an open hand of inclusion and shared dialogue, often replacing proclamation with conversation. And now, among those watching the unfolding events in Rome, many believe that Cardinal Matteo Zupi is poised to take that vision even further. Where Francis initiated, Zupi may accelerate. In a recent address to the Italian Senate Assembly, his words were warmly received, marked by elegance and eloquence. He spoke of dialogue not just among nations, but between the Church and the world. He emphasized the importance of understanding modern culture, reading the signs of the times, and celebrating fullness of life through shared human experience. These are beautiful ideals, and no doubt they appeal to many across social, political, and spiritual lines. Words like inclusion, joy, openness, and unity resonate in an age marked by fragmentation. But beneath the admiration lies an important question, one quietly asked by believers rooted deeply in the tradition of faith. What is the foundation of this message? Where is it anchored? Because true joy, the joy that the saints died for, the joy that sustained martyrs in the darkest prisons and carried missionaries across oceans, is not the same as social harmony or pleasant conversation. True Christian joy is not born from being accepted by all or welcomed by every institution. It comes from one place only: walking in truth. Even when that path is narrow, even when it leads uphill, even when it costs us everything. It's a joy that doesn't often make headlines. It doesn't trend. It doesn't attract attention, but it has the power to save souls. And that is where concern arises. Because when the Church prioritizes language that pleases rather than transforms, it risks replacing substance with style. And when joy becomes a slogan rather than a fruit of the Spirit, the Church may find itself speaking much while saying very little. Behind the scenes, another movement is rising. While public discourse celebrates progress and modernization, a quiet revival continues to grow, often unnoticed by the cameras and unmentioned in official statements. This movement is not fueled by protest, but by perseverance. It is not loud, but it is alive. Across the world, traditional expressions of the Catholic faith are attracting the very demographic often assumed to be drifting away. Young people, young couples with families are rediscovering reverence. Vocations are increasing not in every seminary, but significantly in those rooted in traditional liturgy and sacred doctrine. Parishes that celebrate the Latin Mass, often dismissed as outdated, are overflowing. Children kneel in silence. Teenagers sing chants older than empires. Young priests, full of zeal, carry centuries of faith forward with modern hearts and ancient conviction. This isn't a return to the past. It is a return to depth, a return to the sacred. It is a generation saying, we don't need new words. We need eternal ones. And yet, these expressions of faith rich in symbolism and fidelity are under increasing scrutiny. The very liturgies that have formed saints, nourished civilizations, and survived persecution are now subject to restriction. And many wonder, If Cardinal Zupi were to ascend to the papacy, would these traditions continue to face marginalization? This is the deeper concern, not about style, but about silence, not about one man's preferences, but about whether certain eternal truths will continue to be voiced at all. Because the real issue is not that the Church speaks of joy. Joy is a beautiful and vital fruit of faith. The tragedy would be if the Church stops speaking of why joy matters. Because joy without repentance is fleeting. Mercy without justice is incomplete. Salvation without sin is meaningless. The Church has always taught that Christ came not merely to comfort, but to rescue, not to affirm, but to redeem. The cross was not a gesture of tolerance, it was a sacrifice of love that bore the full weight of justice and mercy in one moment. And yet, under the current course, language of judgment, of hell, of accountability, not as threats, but as realities, has quietly faded from view. In its place, warmth, encouragement, welcome, and while these are good, they cannot stand alone. The full message of the gospel includes both comfort and challenge. It heals the wound, yes, but first it must name it. So what does this mean for the next chapter? If Cardinal Zupi steps forward to lead the Church, he may do so with grace, with intellect, and with a heart for unity. He may bring renewed energy, modern vocabulary, and compassionate tone. But the question remains, will he speak the full truth? Will he remind the Church of her deepest mission, not just to accompany, but to lead souls toward holiness? Because Christianity without truth is not Christianity, it is sentiment. Faith without transformation is not faith, it is theater. And joy without the gospel is not light, it is a shadow. The Church must always engage the world with love, but love, if it is real, must also be brave. And so, as the cardinals prepare for their sacred duty, and the world speculates on white smoke and new beginnings, let us remember, this is not about choosing a personality, it is about protecting a legacy, the legacy of Christ, the fullness of his message, and the salvation of souls. What many observers overlook, or perhaps choose to forget, is the undeniable reality that the next pope will not be chosen in a vacuum. The upcoming conclave, like all that have come before it, will not be decided by chance or circumstance, but by a group of men carefully selected over time. And in this case, that group, the College of Cardinals, has been shaped almost entirely by the vision of one man, Pope Francis. Over the course of his papacy, Francis did not simply appoint cardinals based on geography or tradition. He sculpted a body with a distinctive identity, one that reflects his pastoral priorities, his theological temperament, and his vision for the Church's future. These men, drawn from the farthest corners of the globe, often embody the spirit of dialogue